Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Lee Cantor here with Sanjay Torre, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a fun one.
Exactly.
How was your weekend?
It's pretty chill, surprisingly.
Any funny stories?
Not really.
You go outside the park?
I actually did walk outside.
You have a dog?
No, I
Walk
don't.
the dog?
Walked myself.
Where'd you go?
Around my community.
Nice. Yeah, you better take advantage of this. It's only getting hotter.
Yeah, honestly.
It's game on now.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's kick it off with Charles Watson. He is the CEO of Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Welcome, Charles.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Tell us about Tropical Smoothie Cafe. How are you serving folks?
Sure. Tropical Smoothie Cafe is a healthier, quick casual restaurant chain. We were founded in 1997 down in Destin, Florida, and we moved the company to Atlanta in 2012, which is Atlanta's where I'm born and raised, so that made the commute a lot better than going to Destin. We have 745 locations open. Currently, we have about 20 here in the Atlanta area, and really our business model is kind of two-in-one. We serve both food and smoothies, so about 60% of our sales is in smoothies, all natural, healthy smoothies, and then also we have a variety of wraps, flatbreads, pressed sandwiches, etc. So our average unit volume for our franchisees right now is about $730,000 on development costs of about $325,000. So it's a good little business model for our franchisees.
Now, are most of your franchisees, are they single operators or they own multiple?
So the average franchisee in our system owns 1.9 locations. It's hard to own 1.9, isn't it? But we have some 2 or 3 large franchisees. Our largest franchisee has 55 locations. So really this brand started mom and pop, husband and wife, brothers, sisters, etc. And what we've been able to do is grow and scale through existing franchisees. And I always say that if we're growing through existing franchisees, we must be doing something right. So we've been on a bit of a growth tear. We opened 110 new restaurants last year, and we're on pace to open 130 this year, and we're in 44 states in the United States.
So now when you say like kind of growing from within, that's like the person in Wichita is opening one more?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. We'll do single unit and multi-unit deals. So the growth, 5 to 7 years ago really came from one person buying one location, operating it, cash flowing it, and then having the opportunity to open a second, third, fourth, fifth, et cetera. But we also do 3-packs, 5-packs, 10-packs, et cetera. But we like to focus on making sure that the franchisee is a great fit for our brand and that they can be successful. So we'd rather scale with them one at a time than selling them 10 or 20 or 30. Those deals don't always come to fruition, as they say.
Now, when you're the person who is a potential franchisee, are they a person that's going to work in the store, or is this something where they buy it and then hire a manager and a team, and then they're kind of managing from a distance?
Sure. So I would say with our system makeup right now, it's probably about 75% owner-operator and about 25% management model. With that shift from single unit to multi-unit, we're growing that sector that has managers, district managers, supervisors in place. But again, it's kind of the American dream story. It starts with one and then scales from there.
Now, as part of your training, though, do you have to adjust the training in that you know that there's kind of a career path where they are going to then be managing others, so then you have to teach them different things?
Absolutely, and we just completed we do an annual conference, and we were down in Orlando about a month and a half ago, and one of the tracks that we had was multi-unit operations and management. So that is a little bit new to us. Luckily for me, we have a very experienced staff at Tropical Smoothie Cafe. As we've been able to grow and scale the business, I've been able to bring on more and better talent that have been with other brands that have been there, done that, as they say. So yes, we're absolutely educating our franchisees on the different model that is needed from a management perspective to operate 5, 10, 15, 20 locations.
Now, historically, when Tropical Smoothie Cafe started, were they only smoothies and then grew into the food part, or has it always been a combination?
So it's actually a really great story. Our two founders, Eric Jenrich and David Walker, who founded the business down in Destin, and the first location in 1998 that was franchised was actually in Tallahassee, Florida. They did about a year and a half with just smoothies, and they really were prescient in terms of understanding, wow, we can't make enough money doing just smoothies, right? Smoothies, it's a great margin.
How many smoothies? Let's do the math on this.
Exactly. So they added food very quickly. We've had multiple name iterations through the years: Tropical Smoothie Cafe and Deli, blah, blah, blah. So as we've grown, we've iterated a little bit, and we've landed on Tropical Smoothie Cafe. So really in 1999 is when they added the food component. So we've been a dual model really for many years now, and it's really allowed us to carve out a nice niche in the industry. We have our smoothie competitors. We know who those guys are. We also have kind of food and sandwich competitors. So you might argue, wow, that seems like very intense competition. What I would tell you about the restaurant business is we're all fighting for share of stomach, which means we're all fighting regardless for your share of your stomach. So it doesn't really matter. And being able to have both of those components, smoothies and food, it allows our customers to come in and use us as a family, et cetera.
And multiple day parts.
And multiple day parts, yeah. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack times.
And then does it open up also things for the operator for catering and things like that as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. Catering, we have some stores that do, some cafes that do really big catering. Catering is really a hustle business. It's really up to the franchisee to go and build and grow that. I'll give you an example. We have a franchisee, Mike Tate, in Birmingham, Alabama. He used to be a pharmaceutical sales rep. He used to go and buy food all the time for his docs, right? So what did he do when he became a Tropical Smoothie Cafe
like opportunity,
franchisee?
right?
Exactly. So he probably does, $250,000 a year in catering, which is ultimately its own business model going right alongside it. So we support our franchisees with catering programs, et cetera. Also an extremely competitive environment, right? As we sit here in an office, many offices around Atlanta and around the country do a lot of catering. So there's a lot of competition, but there's a lot of opportunity as well.
Now, when a situation like that kind of organically bubbles up within the system, isn't that one of the advantages of being in the system, that kind of knowledge can be transferred and shared as a best practice to others, and they can choose to take advantage of that?
Absolutely. Catering is absolutely an example of that, where we're going to package the tools and the resources and the knowledge. At the end of the day, you're paying franchise fees because we've already made that mistake, and you don't need to go make it on your own. I liken it to, we created this bicycle. It's very fast, and it goes down there. If you start putting streamers on it and you start putting cards in between the wheels, et cetera, you're now altering the business model. So our most successful franchisees get on the bike and they ride it, right? Mm-hmm. They follow the system, they follow the model, and they take all the support that Tropical Smoothie Cafe provides as a franchisor.
Now, what's your backstory? Were you always involved in franchising?
So I actually grew up here in Atlanta. My father was in the restaurant business, so I grew up washing dishes,
in
waiting
a franchise
tables.
restaurant or
no,
independent?
He was an independent. He always said he kicked himself for not franchising. His company was W.D. Crowley's. There was the Brandy House on Roswell Road. The Bucket Shop is still there, across from Lennox. He's no longer involved with him, but grew up working there, and then went off to a hotel and restaurant school for college. Went up to Athens to get my MBA, and I actually, because I saw the up and down of the restaurant business through living it with my mom and dad, I went into hotels after college. I said, hopefully this is less risky than restaurants. So I worked right across the street at Intercontinental Hotels for many years, Wyndham Hotels, Hyatt, etc. And in 2010, one of my associates at a hotel company I worked at, U.S. Franchise Systems, a guy by the name of Scott Presley, who is one of the founding partners of Rourke Capital, which is a very big franchise owner, approached me about a little brand down in Destin, Florida called Tropical Smoothie Cafe, and that was 9 years ago. So I've gone from vice president of franchise development to chief development officer, and I was appointed CEO in December of 2018. So it's been a great ride. I've been very fortunate.
Well, since you come from a hotel kind of background, you might be interested. We had last week Horst Schulze, the founder of Ritz-Carlton, was in here.
I was very lucky to have lunch with Horst about 3 months ago. One of our employees at Tropical Smoothie Cafe has worked with him for many years at Ritz-Carlton, and so she's very good. She got me lunch. She got me a signed book. So Horst is literally a guy that when I was in hotel and restaurant school, we read books about.
Right.
So it was very neat in my career to go
he
and
lives
sit down
here
and
in
have
town,
lunch.
so
Yeah.
So it's I think more people should take advantage of that. If you have the opportunity.
Absolutely.
And I say that if there was a Mount Rushmore of customer experience, he would definitely be part of that.
He built it.
So now, from a service standpoint, how do you differentiate yourself in that same manner? You're trying to kind of do that above and beyond service?
Gosh, if I could be, any part of Ritz-Carlton or what Horst has done, but I do. I take hospitality. I believe is in my DNA. It's what I really care about. You got to have great service and great products. This isn't a complicated business, but it isn't an easy business. So I would say that is one of the core things that I'm looking to do is elevate the level of hospitality and service at Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Our franchisees work very hard day in and day out. We also work in an industry where we have over 70% turnover. training and hiring are two of the things that restaurant operators have to do constantly. And it's difficult. It just is, especially when you're dealing with minimum wage or minimum wage plus jobs. The brand has to be engaging. The franchisee has to be engaging to get the 17 to 20-year-old engaged in what they're doing. So it's something I'm putting a lot of resources and effort towards, training programs, both virtual and in person, to really drive that, because I believe that in this country, service is just about dead. And those who can differentiate on service, you got the Chick-fil-A examples, et cetera, I think it absolutely can be a competitive advantage. So we're working very hard to continue to elevate there.
We had somebody from Chick-fil-A, since you mentioned it, in recently, and something he said that stayed with me is, he goes, "We only hire people that smile naturally."
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. Smile is big.
Right, like I can't train that.
Nope. One of the stats that we look at is it's friendliness. Hello, how are you?
Right.
Welcome to Tropical Smoothie
Right.
Cafe. Exactly. It's not rocket science, but it isn't easy in the big scheme of things.
And then, so that's a challenge, I guess, in the whole industry as a whole. Everybody's kind of fighting that battle, and it seems like Chick-fil-A's cracked the code somewhat, but it seems like it's a difficult thing to replicate.
It is very difficult to replicate, and Chick-fil-A has some wonderful towering strengths in that area that allow them to operate. Their model being different, that the average operator only owns 1, 2,
Right.
maybe 3 locations, so it's really kind of that family feel and
team,
culture.
they can build the team.
But I would tell you that it can be replicated. I have franchisees that have set up that model and get calls at night from one of their associates who has a test tomorrow in math. And they'll call and ask for help. And I have franchisees that will do that type of stuff. Those franchisees that get engaged with their people like that tend to have the highest, what we call OSAT, operational satisfaction scores, with their consumers. So you really have to live it and feel it and breathe it and work with your people to ultimately provide great service to customers.
Now, as a CEO and coming from was this your first CEO job?
First CEO role, yeah.
Yeah. So how did you kind of attack that? Did you have mentors that gave you, okay, this is 100-day, this is your first 100-day plan?
Hey, I'm still working on it. You got any suggestions? No, I will tell you, I'm a little bit nerdy. So I have been doing a ton of reading. I've been having a ton of lunches. I got another CEO next to me that I need whose brain I need to pick. But there are tons of people who've been in this position before. I'm not the first person to ever be a CEO, and so I have no problem borrowing and stealing. Right? I think that's the best way to increase my knowledge base, both with people and with my own studies and reading. We're owned by a private equity firm here in Atlanta called BIP Capital. Some very talented CEOs.
So not Rourke.
Not Rourke. No. Mr. Presley went off and started his own thing. So a lot of people to reach out to, and it's that interpersonal connection that has really helped me. But I am doing some mentoring and some coaching, both on. I have a coach who says the head and the heart. If you can get the head and the heart right, you're on your way. And so that's really what I'm focused on, is understanding how I can impact my company, our company, with what I am passionate about. We have wonderful culture. We have wonderful values, both at our support center and out in the field with our franchisees. But at the end of the day, for me to be passionate about it, I've got to put my fingerprints on it. It's got to mean something in my head and my heart, more importantly. So I'm in the process of really understanding what that's going to look like for Tropical Smoothie.
So now, how do you kind of elevate the why of why these people should be doing what they're doing, and instead of the what and the how? And just really focus on the importance of what you're doing, because what you're doing is kind of wholesome and good. You're promoting healthy eating, healthy living, healthy food, giving healthier choices. There is a true why there.
There is, absolutely. And the first thing you do is you read Simon Sinek's book, right? The Why book. But I think for us, absolutely, it's understanding how much we want to elevate that. At the end of the day, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, I feel like, is really a belt-high fastball for the average American. So there's perception and there's reality, right? So we have to really understand, and there's taste, convenience, and health. All these things are jumbling around, and we're trying to ultimately figure out, what does our guest want, right? So we could sell wheatgrass on cardboard, and it might be the healthiest thing in the world, but I don't know that we're going to have any sales. So it's being on that razor's edge of health and wellness, as well as approachability. So that's ultimately what I'm trying to do. We're spending this year, as Tropical Smoothie has scaled, we're investing in our brand by doing a brand study. We're working with a very well-known third-party consultant to help us really dig into the qualitative and quantitative needs of our guests. That's going to provide what I like to call the guardrails of where this brand is going and where we're taking it. it, to make sure that we don't do too much too fast, et cetera, and really inform that why. Fully inform it, fully nail it, and then go and execute against it, which is ultimately executing against what our guests want.
And then as a franchisor, is the challenge, okay, we have to build a restaurant experience. That's part of the job.
Yep.
But the other part is I got to find new franchisees and I got to serve them and make sure that they're successful and making money as fast as possible so that they continue to thrive and open up that one more. So it's like you almost have two kind of constituencies.
We do, absolutely.
And then probably an investor because
we
it's
do
owned by a private.
Our stakeholder model looks like the board and the investors, the franchisees, my corporate support center staff, and then ultimately prospective franchisees, right? So it's almost two businesses. One is development and selling franchises and helping the average American or the average entrepreneur understand if Tropical Smoothie Cafe will be a good fit for their personal and their professional goals. And then once they buy a franchise and they get in, it's all about supporting them. At the end of the day, if I do one thing well, our Tropical Smoothie Cafe will be successful. And if I never forget one thing, if franchisees make money, everything will work out.
Right.
So that's
That's
big
the
on
true
my
north.
whiteboard.
That's the
It's
true
the true
north.
north. Absolutely, absolutely. And to help do that, I have to figure out our why and define it even more than we have. Absolutely, we're an aspirational, inspirational brand. To be a little bit healthier, eat better, feel better is our motto, and so we want to continue to drive that. I just want to sharpen it a little bit.
Now, when you're kind of honing in on that, the reason for the customer to go in, is it, so what are some tactics? Are you using social media? Are you using kind of ambassador,
Sure.
kind of loyalty cards, things like that?
Sure. So our greatest ambassadors are our franchisees. At the end of the day, a franchise business is what I like to call a street corner business. You've heard that many times. But the average franchisee, if they stand on top of where their location is, they need to own that 3 to 5 mile radius around that location.
So they have to immerse themselves in the community.
Absolutely.
They have to know the high school, the schools around there. They got to.
Absolutely.
They have to be known by them as
Absolutely.
a place to go.
And those franchisees that do that and do that well are our most successful franchisees. So
That's not a coincidence.
not a coincidence. Absolutely not. So they're our best, ultimately, brand ambassadors. But other things that we do, absolutely. We have a national marketing fund, and we've been pretty strategic about how we've invested that. We have almost 750 locations. We're still not Wendy's. We're still not McDonald's. We still don't have the types of budgets that those brands are working with. So we have to be scrappy, as I like to call it. And so social and digital is where we do a lot of our customer acquisition, a lot of our marketing. Do we still do billboards and flyers and yeah, absolutely. But that's more at the local level. At the national level, it's more about social and digital to drive customer trial.
Now, are you learning, or have you already learned, kind of how to? What's the word? There's so many choices for a consumer. I live right here.
Right.
And I think I maybe have gone to your store once or twice. It's not.
We're going to change that.
Now I know at least 2 more times. But it's one of those things where you get into kind of a habit where, okay, I go to the Thai restaurant a couple times. I go to the Chinese restaurant. I go to certain things like it's my circuit that I go.
Right.
And I like to try new things, so I'm always venturing out to like Buford Highway and to kind of the outskirts to try newer things too. So it's hard to kind of get in the habit of getting that as part of the circuit.
Well, and I think you've hit on a huge restaurant trend right there, just you as an individual, which is the desire for ethnic cuisines, right? You say Buford Highway, everyone in Atlanta sort of knows, oh, yeah, that's where I can go get pho, that's where I can get, different Latin dishes, et cetera. So we in kind of chain restaurants are doing the same thing from a product development and innovation. I think that's one of the strengths of Tropical Smoothie Cafe. You can go get a Thai crunch wrap at Tropical Smoothie.
So you can be nimble.
We can be nimble. We can be nimble, absolutely. And product development is hugely important so that we can bring on the adoption scale. The adoption scale kind of looks like a half circle. For our brand, we believe that when take our Island Green Smoothie, it's spinach, kale, pineapple, mango, and banana. Okay, well, we launched that in 2013. The average American consumer was ready for that at that time. We launched 3 or 4 years ago quinoa and grain bowls. Guess what? The average American consumer was not ready for that yet. I bet you if we launched it today,
now they are.
Now they are.
Right.
So that was a big lesson for us on the adoption continuum. Where and how do you deliver cutting edge products, and when will they sell? When does the consumer really want it? So that's a super interesting discussion, and one that we're struggling with and battling with all the time to get those new flavors, cuisines, et cetera, to our customers in mass, in scale.
Right, and because it has to work in the operation.
Absolutely.
That's part of the challenge. The puzzle you're
And
playing.
we have a very simple operation. We don't have grills or deep
Right.
fryers or hooding systems, et cetera, which is great from the healthy perception and great from hopefully speed of service. We got work to do there for our customers, but it does limit you somewhat. So we have to.
Well, those are parameters that you got to work within.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, so where on the continuum are you for healthy? Like, is it a vegan would find things there, or is that too far?
No, a vegan would find stuff. We use a plant-based protein. We have that product at our cafes. Hummus. We have a hummus veggie bowl and wrap, et cetera. So we do have options, and we're highly customizable. If you don't want protein, we just won't put protein on it for you. So we do have lots of options for vegans, et cetera.
So vegan to the person that just kind of their wife makes them go there. There's you know
exactly.
what I mean?
It's as healthy as you want to be, right?
Right.
It's highly customizable, so it's as healthy as you want to be. And what we found is that what the American consumer says that they want when you interview them versus
and
what they go
buy
and order,
and write a check for is not the same.
they are different, and so that's what we struggle with, because we want to be
Right.
aspirational, and we want to have those menu cues of this is how healthy you can be. But then we find that I don't want to say less healthy. I mean, and it's also everyone's definition of health is different. So how do you choose? How do you choose one, and how do you pick one? We've determined that it's about being flexible. It's about allowing people to make their own choices, and I think ultimately that's what consumers want.
Right, but as a brand, it must be a challenge, because the more you are for everybody, then the more you are for nobody.
You're exactly right, and that's another struggle we have. So we're currently in the process, both from product development and innovation, as well as we're over here doing that to find new things, while at the same time we're trying to streamline the menu, right? to keep it simple, and let's stick with the horses that run the fastest, right? Any menu in any restaurant, it's ultimately real estate, and if something isn't selling or it isn't speaking to your guests, then it needs to go. And so that's a constant battle that we're fighting.
But that's my favorite, and that guy yells a lot.
Exactly. That does happen, and so that's where, as a franchisor, we have to provide a lot of data to our franchisees of what things are coming and going and why. Because ultimately, franchising and franchisees, it's a total partnership. I do not have a job without franchisees.
Right.
So we got to get their buy-in.
So now, have you really kind of getting the data part right? So you're have a lot of data mining and able to kind of identify trends maybe
so
earlier?
we do a very good job. I think we can be great. So the whole technology side, we've talked about ethnic cuisines. Technology is also a huge impact in the industry in a myriad of ways. So you're talking about one, which is the database, data mining, all the way to artificial intelligence, right? You saw McDonald's made a big purchase in an AI firm. So along that continuum, we're just getting started, I would say. Absolutely. We have data mining and analytics and visualization of that data. But I currently have a PhD from Georgia Tech as our data architect over there working on things.
But I bet when they stared the franchise, there was no data scientist on the team.
No, everyone had a gut, and they said,
Right,
I think this will taste good.
Right.
Let's roll it out. And we're at a scale now where we can't do that anymore. It's too risky. We can so we're in this perfect spot of being able to be nimble, but also we got to be smart. And so that's what's so exciting to me, is to be able to scale even further from here while being able to do both things well.
So now going forward for the rest of the year, what are you focused on?
So big focus for us, especially with me being a new CEO, is really the 5-year strategic plan. And so some of the things that we're working on are
you can project out 5 years.
No, but you can certainly take a stab at it and then iterate as you go. But to have, again, as I talked about, those guardrails to understand where we're going. So the big investments we're making are hospitality, which we talked about, technology, which we talked about, product development and innovation. So those are 3 core things. Tropical Smoothie, ultimately, with the consumers these days, convenience, right? We have to live at a big intersection, which is value, convenience, taste, health, et cetera. So we got to draw all those things together and draw our line in the sand of this is who Tropical Smoothie Cafe is. So
and
that's
this is who we're not.
And this is who we're not.
Right.
Exactly.
That's part of the deal
that's
too.
Part of it. Absolutely. So we're in the process of doing that. We're doing a ton of strategic research in the industry, both myself and our team, to really understand our brand and where it's going, understand the competition and where it's going. It's the old, Porter's 5 forces, right? It's kind of nerdy business school stuff, but you do have to understand where you sit and where you play. And restaurants couldn't be more competitive. Low barrier to entry, blah, blah, blah. So we have to really nail exactly who we are and who we're not. And that's primarily what we're doing in 2019. while also opening 130 new restaurants. Our comp sales are up about 5% so far this year. I think the industry's up about 2%. So we continue to outpace the industry from a comps perspective, from an opens perspective. But the most important metric, franchisee profitability.
Right.
It's great to grow. I only want to grow if franchisees are growing their profits as well, because with that, we have a sustainable business.
So now I know a lot of the growth has been from existing franchisees, but is there a profile of a perfect tropical smoothie franchisee?
You know, I would probably sound smarter if I said yes, and he or she is 29 and went to this school. But no, I would say that ultimately it's about the passion piece. It's about the connection to the brand. And our franchise development team does a really good job of understanding the question behind the question, which is, Tropical Smoothie Cafe is a business vehicle. It's a vehicle for your income, wealth, lifestyle. What are you really trying to do? Okay, is Tropical Smoothie a fit to get you there? And we spent a lot of time on that. And so we've got franchisees as young as 23 years old, and we got franchisees in their 60s and 70s. Both equally successful, but both approach it very differently. So we have to be mindful not to create any boxes because we've seen franchisees of many different stripes do very, very well. But it's about that relationship and understanding the brand that we think is most important.
Well, they might have different demographics, but are their psychographics similar?
Yeah, I would say the ability to connect, right? Like we talked about it. They have to model what they want their employees to do or their teams to do. So friendliness, having a smile, attention to detail, work ethic. At the end of the day, this is a business that's open from 7 in the morning till 9 at night. You got to be able to knock it out, especially in your first 6 to 12 months of operation. Everybody wants to know the owner, regardless of what kind of business you are. And our most successful franchisees typically are staffed up. And during 11 to 2, big lunch rush, they're out front, handing out those cards I just gave you, introducing themselves, speaking with people. And they're modeling the behaviors and the friendliness and the service attitude that they want that 17, 18, 19-year-old to do as well. And so it's really passing it down. So that's ultimately what we're looking for in our franchisees.
And then, like you said, growing, everything seems good from that front. Mm-hmm. You're kind of getting the reins here.
I know.
What's your favorite part?
I think the ability to influence the direction, right? All the things that we're working on now, and I'm very happy that I have an ownership group that's allowing both time and investment to really twist the Rubik's Cube and understand who we are and who we're not, as you said. So they're giving me the time in 2019 to really do that. Also, the cultural aspect. It doesn't matter what business we're in, and you probably hear this all. It's the people. It's the people at my support center. It's the franchisees. It's the employees working at the cafe level. It's all about the people. So spending a lot of time working on culture, as I said earlier. So the culture piece and the strategic direction is ultimately the things that have just been fantastic to be able to own.
Now, if somebody wanted to learn more about being a franchisee, what's the coordinates there?
Sure. So I would go to www.tropicalsmoothiefranchise.com, all one word, tropicalsmoothiefranchise.com, and that'll get you started on a process to learn more about Tropical Smoothie. We've got a great team to talk them through that.
And if you're hungry and want to have lunch,
yes, absolutely.
Find the location nearest you.
tropicalsmoothicafe.com.
All right, Charles, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
All right, hang with us. One more guest. Next up on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Jamine Moton, the CEO of Skylar Security. Welcome, Jamine.
Thank you.
Did you learn anything there?
Oh, my goodness. I was soaking all of that up.
That was good stuff, right?
Yeah, my heart is in the customer experience, so they seem like they really have a good grasp on that. So that was encouraging to hear.
So Charles knows a thing or two.
More than a thing or two. Yeah, when you can lean on the culture and ebb and flow it where it has impact into your profitability and your customer base, you're onto something for sure.
Well, impact is the word of the day, that's for sure. And your firm is making quite an impact. Tell us about Skylar, how you got into it.
So Skylar Security, when I was in high school, I was a bully's bully. I tell that story all the time. Something I'm very proud of. I've always advocated for those individuals, male or female, that need the voice. And so I've been very proud of that. Wanted to go to the FBI and was on track to go and made a decision about 5 years ago to start entrepreneurship and get my feet really firm into the security industry. And our focus is quality. we compromise volume and we compromise growth for quality. And that's something that we've been building for years. And it's become the crux of our business model.
And when you say quality, how are you defining that?
So at first, when I first started, we were coming up with our philosophy and culture and our tenets. We called ourselves a hospitality company.
Not a
very
security
close,
company.
Not a security company.
Right. So you wanted to make a clear distinction.
A very clear distinction, to the extent that even in our pitch deck, you would see the picture of a concierge holding a plate, but he or she is dressed in a security uniform. So it's more about the experience and less about how you look. You can put a body in a uniform and it not be security. And we find that a lot of security companies traditionally don't really put enough emphasis on the individual.
On the
more
service part, they're
right.
more on the
They're more
scaring,
on the
scaring off the bad guy.
Well, what the uniform looks like.
Right.
So what's the purpose of a $300-$400 uniform if the person in the uniform, if you haven't invested into that individual?
Right. And who's sleeping in the car?
Right. Of sleeping. Don't get me started. I get hives when I talk about it. But yeah, sleeping in the car. All of the things that Skylar has no tolerance for. And so because of our business model, we can focus on the hospitality edge. I got the greatest compliment in the world this past weekend. We were with Habitat for Humanity at their gala. They took all of our money, broke. But love that organization, and we'll give them and continue to give them all of our financial support. But they said there is something very special about you guys. I mean, and you could see the sincerity in their eyes, because when you talk about security, you're talking about fear. So it's something that should be taken very seriously. And you would think that traditionally a parking detail is an officer parking the cars, right? So just park the cars,
right,
and then go home. For Skylar, that is a major operation. It's not just about parking the cars.
Right, you're elevating the experience. You're taking whatever the basics, table stakes, and you raise them.
We raise them through consistency. So all of our, very similar to my brother here, Charles, his model with the restaurant industry, we want to do the same thing over and over and over again. So whether you're an African-American female, 6 foot, 280 like me, or you are 150 pounds, male, Caucasian, the experience should be exactly the same. Wave, say hello. And be pleasant. Your the EQ should be high, so you know how to deal with crisis with a smile. And if it's not with a smile, it's still with respect. It's with compassion, empathy, and understanding. And then if we have to contact the local police department, they can then take it from there. But when you interact with Skylar, if we're not fighting on the ground or doing anything where there's a need for use of force, you should be pleasant. And it was my police strategy when I was at the Clayton County Police Department.
Right. So your background is with law enforcement.
Right. I tell you, I thought when you take the survey when you're in high school and it tells you what you're going to do for the rest of your life. Mine said judge and lawyer. So I went back and looked at my transcript and about fell out laughing. So I pretty much, when I was a police officer, I was able to do all those things, and my heart is community. But I found that, when I looked at my badge, I had a sense of pride. When I look at the security industry and they look at themselves, do they have that same pride?
Right.
No, they do not.
Well,
in Skylar, they do, but that's what we're building the culture so that you can have that.
Now, I think your background's unique in that I like to say that people have certain superpowers, and your superpowers, right? So you have service as one of your superpowers, and that's very important to you. And then kind of advocating for people, super important to you. Absolutely. But also you were an athlete at the highest level. So you know what excellence looks like. You know what work it takes. You don't just show up and perform. So talk about your athletic background a little bit.
Well, I don't. You're telling all my secrets. I am a 7-time Hall of Famer, Clemson University, undergrad, grad, and have my master's there from criminal justice and human resources. But while I was there, I played basketball and ran track on the ACC D1 level. And what I learned, matter of fact, they just called me last week to run a story about the similarities between my athletic career and my success in business now. And I tell them that, I don't tell people all the time about Clemson because that's my secret power. Everything I learned that I'm doing in business now, I somehow did it when I was in Clemson. Okay, what does that mean? When I was running track and playing basketball, the type of work ethic that I learned, you're not going to outwork us. So Skylar is going to be prepared. The work that we do, you don't even see it. I don't want you. You're not supposed to see it.
It's supposed to look easy.
It's
on the
it's
track, right? It's supposed to look easy on the track.
The grace. Yes. So there's a grace that Skylar has. You'll never, and you should know as a client. And I tell my team, if the client sees our back end and how we get it done, say there's a problem, you should never know there's a problem.
Right.
So it's sometimes, most times our operations run smooth and sometimes it doesn't. Whether it does or not, the client should always see a smile, the pleasantness,
right.
See you, even if you have to run out of your car and hurry up and get in place real quick because traffic. When that client bends that corner, they should see you standing there smiling. They don't need to know that you fought traffic. I don't even want to hear it.
It's not their problem.
I don't want to hear it, right? So one of the things that we do that I'm very proud of is called the Skylar Challenge. And as a matter of fact, I leave here and I have an interview today. We have an office down at the Flatiron City building. Not the easiest building to find.
Nope.
And definitely not the easiest, right? So our hello and our interview to the first time meeting these providers is a Skylar Challenge. So if they call me and say they can't find parking, or if they call me and tell me they're late, if they come in sweating because they've been running because they're, trying to get through traffic, then it's a no deal. It's a no deal. So at the door, if you're not able to navigate all that, then I know you won't be able to navigate Skylar challenges
right to their client.
So, our officers, security guards, we treat them as franchisees to grab his term, and they are business owners. They take ownership of the client experience, period. They're the ones that are interfacing, and we put a lot of value in that relationship.
Now, in terms of your business client, who are your clients? Like you mentioned, Habitat for Humanity is one of your clients. Do you work primarily with nonprofits, or do you work with for-profits, or do you work for buildings? Like who is the profile of a client for you?
We have two client profiles right now. The one, Habitat for Humanity, because of their project-based model.
Right, so they have a project. They need people to come in and then secure the area for a period of time.
Right, for a period of time. Their periods for each home is about 8 weeks, 8 to 9 weeks, and then we literally watch the house go up. It's just the most incredible thing you could ever witness. And we do that over and over and over.
And not just here in Atlanta, that could be anywhere.
Right. Well, we just partnered with Habitat for Humanity International, and we just did their celebrity build. Actually, it ends this week. And they've requested that we travel with them across the U.S. because of that customer experience. Right. And so then we also work with Colliers International. Very happy we were able to get our first Class A building. And that's putting us not only on Peachtree, but in a demographic that we feel fits aligned with our business model, which is that concierge, which is naturally that customer service, that natural
and
concierge.
That's like the day-to-day.
That's day-to-day.
Right.
So we like the project base because that's how we started. We'll never get away from that. But we love that we're stretching into a different demographic of the concierge buildings. We also have a lot of our clients that are condos, high-rise condos that are in the city that may need quick, short-term assistance. And so, like, let's say if there's the door is damaged, they'll have us come in and stand by the door and just make sure everything is good. Right.
And that's the beauty of your service. You can flex too. If they need you for a few hours.
Call us for one, call
2
us
months,
for two.
Right.
And I tell people this all the time. They're like, Jamine, you say that all the time. And I'm going to continue to say it because it is truly our mantra. Security is an emotion, not a business. And everyone deserves to be safe. So how do you say no to fear? You don't. You say yes. And my business coaches, and they're like, Jamine, you're crazy. You can't say no to everything. Okay. You're not a nonprofit. I said, well, maybe we'll make a nonprofit. How about that? We'll figure out a way to say yes.
To make it work.
And so when clients call me, I say, okay, what do you need? When do you need it? And then I say, okay, put the phone down. They have peace of mind that it's going to be done and we'll be there. Now the way that looks is a lot of papers on the table and we're figuring it out, but the officer will be there.
Right.
And we're looking at leveraging some technology and building some things to really stay in the front end of not only the innovation, but that we can scale. Charles used that word a lot, and scaling across the U.S. What does that look like for a company like ours that is so in tune with our customers and our officers, actually? It's the client, but also our security guards are so important to us. And if they can catch the vision of what we're trying to lift the industry. We're literally single-handedly from Atlanta trying to lift the security industry. How do you scale that? So we're working on some technology on how to do that.
And then the profile of a Skylar security person is maybe not the typical.
Oh, not typical at all.
Right, so what do they look like?
Well, first of all, one of the things that I love, it's going to be a slower scale, but we grow from within. And so we only grow from referrals. So we grow our client base from referrals, and we also grow our security guards from referrals. So first of all, if you don't know anybody in the organization, then you're not going to work. People Instagram, direct box me all the time, and they say, I want to work for you, I want to work for you, I want to work for you. And I have to say, well, are you familiar with anyone that's attached to the organization? No. Well, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to.
So it takes a personal referral, somebody vouching for somebody
Absolutely.
in order to get in the door.
And then we only interview 4 times a year. So we're not interested in scaling faster than the quality that we have. Like I said, we're bootstrapping it. We're almost like a brick and mortar type of thing where, we love what we do to the extent that we can be a unicorn. We would love to do that, but that's not our main focus is the money. So what does that type look like? I would say.
Are they military?
No,
or are they
90% of our officers are professionals.
And
we've trained them to be security. Now that we have our brand down and that we have this really nice chemistry with all of them and they know what their expectations are and they know how to represent the Skylar way, we are now opening up to individual officers that are in the industry. But if I could be honest and transparent as I usually am, it's not working out too well. I almost want to go back to, and I'm trying to grab the industry where it is.
You're going to have to grow your own.
I'm going to have to grow my own, and I'm okay with that. It's going to slow us down a little bit. But I find when I interview the officers that are in the industry, their skills.
There's bad habits you got to unlearn.
Yeah, I can't. It's just, and I don't have the patience. I don't have the patience to necessarily teach those officers how to change embedded behavior. Right. So I can teach you and coach you. I want to teach you business acumen and can't teach you business acumen if I'm teaching you how to put your clothes on and carry yourself. That's fundamental. That should be just how you walk in the door. So like you said with Chick-fil-A and the smile.
Yeah, choose wisely.
Choose wisely. And we're not needy. We have, for every shift that we push out there to our team, we have 7 officers that are asking for it. So our officers actually pick the shifts that they want. So we love that business model. Very customized, which takes a lot of time to put together, but seems like we're heading in the right direction.
Well, part of your growth has been your work with Five Guys. Can you talk about that a little bit?
So Five Guys, we have 2 sites in Houston. It's the corporate Five Guys and the Five Guys in South Beach, Miami, which is a fun one. I went down there the first time to do a site visit in a full black suit and looked like I was on Mars. I was the only one, I think, working down there. But yes, we're there. And then we're also in Savannah. We were a part of the St. Patrick's Day Parade. We did an undercover boss down there, my COO and I, which is always interesting when you really get down there and experience really what's going on the ground. I think a leprechaun kissed me a couple times. But it was really interesting to see their core team come down there. And as important as it is to see what your officers are doing and being a part of the groundwork, the weeds, as they say in business, to see one of our clients that has that same philosophy of taking care of the team and even getting your hands dirty to do that is awesome. So
what are you doing for them?
So
when they open a store or something?
You're right. So it's not every store, but when they have special needs, which is something we're really good at, when they have special needs, whether it be a short period of time or we have a couple sites where it's ongoing, and then there's a couple of them where they just call us when they need us, and we blitz it. We get everything together and get the crime together, build relationships with the law enforcement community, and then we're out. And then they'll call us back in when we're needed, or we'll stay intermittently. And we also worked with Pizza Hut here recently for about a 3-week project. And crime is real. It's the equalizer, right? So whether gay, straight, male, female, from the north or south, crime is the one thing that if you haven't encountered it, either you'll encounter it directly or we'll have a colleague. So in business, profitability is affected by the criminal element.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times what we'll find is when we come in, even if the budget doesn't allow it for a long term, we can come in and give that presence, and the community sees, okay, they're supported,
Right.
and then they have a relationship.
Deterrent.
Right. It's a natural deterrent. Get things back on track. Get that the profits back in. Get the customer satisfied with the investment of the corporate office, and we're shooting forward. So we love our clients. We love Five Guys and Collier's and Habitat for Humanity, and the condos that we have. It's just been a really good relationship over the years.
So
Bojangles as well. Bojangles, we've worked with them.
What do you need more of? How can we help?
So we grow by referrals, and so we would love for you and, of course, your listeners to share our story and any opportunities that we can to offer those services, whether, like I said, quick mobilization, quick service, or a long-term project, or even, we've serviced weddings with special cases. And so that's another story for another show. But we come in, whether it's high risk or low risk, we could put a team together for it. So if any of your listeners need our type of service, we would love for them to contact us.
All right. If somebody wanted to learn more, what's the website?
SkylarSecurity.com, and we're on all social media platforms.
Good stuff. Jamine, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
All right. This is Lee Cantor for Sanjay Torre. We will see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.